Alright guys, so if you're here, you have a Ford Ecoline and you're looking how to change the brakes and how to save a little money. I just wanted to put a little disclaimer here. I'm not a mechanic. I'm just a guy who's been fixing his car and drives 75,000 miles a year, and I can't afford to go to the mechanic every single time my car breaks down. So what you're going to be seeing here is the fastest and easiest way to save yourself some money. A few tips before we get started. If you do any of this work yourself, don't stress. As long as your car is not leaking a bunch of fluid after you do it, you're good. You can always just drive to a mechanic. I like to go to Firestone personally. You pay them $20 and they go entire way. They go all over your car. They check everything. If you got a good Firestone, by the way, make sure you go to one with a good rating on it. Mine is really good. They go over the entire car for $20 and they make sure that everything is right. If you got a professional doing it for you, I know that I'm not a professional, and I don't want you guys to think, hey, just because it's fixed and it's working means that it's working. Make sure that you go the extra mile and pay somebody to just check your work for you. It's a really simple step and it'll get you through a lot of hard times, and it'll save you thousands of dollars. To pay somebody $20 to check your work, thousands of dollars. So with that being said, let's get into the video. This video is going to be an explanation on how to do the brakes on a 2000, I think it's 1997 to 2006 Ford Ecoline. Whatever, regardless model, it should be pretty similar or exactly the same, who knows. So what I'm going to be doing today is the brake pads, the brake calipers, and the rotors with the bearing inside. So I'm going to have to be replacing the rotors, and inside there's actually a bearing. So make sure you have all the parts before you start, so you don't have to run to the store. Make sure you order all your parts online and save yourself some money and save yourself a trip to the store. The other thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to replace the brake lines. There's a couple of tricks and tips that I have on the brake lines also, so make sure you stay tuned and make sure you look for that too. In order to make this video as detailed as possible, I'm not gonna cut it out. I'm just gonna play it straight through. What I've done now is I've jacked up the car right beneath the lower control arm bolt. You'll see it down under there. It's the easiest way to get the car up. The next thing you have to do, you have to make sure before you lift the car is get a breaker bar like this one. And you're going to definitely want something that I don't have is a deep socket 22mm bolt, because that's going to make it super easy to get on to these really long studs that you got here. Okay, and remember, these are torqued to 140 pounds, so you're definitely going to need a breaker bar. Even if you have an impact, your impact gun's probably not going to be strong enough to get these off. Do yourself a favor and get a breaker bar first. Okay, so with that said, let's start popping these lug nuts off. There's 8 lug nuts here, 22mm. Without a deep socket, it's going to be kind of difficult. You're going to have to stick the socket on first, and then just kind of barely pop it on. What I noticed is that these make great trays down here. And you can just throw your bolts in there, good to go. Throw some jack stands right underneath the car, just in case. There's a good access point right here for a jack stand. Right there in the midsection. And there's another one. Right in the front here. Jack down a little bit onto the jack stand. There we go. Okay, so now that we're all safely jacked up on jack stands, let's get started. First thing we're going to do, and what I did beforehand, is I sprayed all of the bolts prior with PB Blaster. You might want to do that too. It's going to make your job a hell of a lot easier.
What I've noticed here, we're going to be doing the brakes, we're going to be doing the calipers here, and the calipers come with this bracket. We're also going to be doing this rotor, and right here, right beneath this, is where our nut is for the castellated nut for our axle, for our spindle. So we're going to pop that off. So the easiest way to do that is take a chisel and a mallet, come down on it from every angle. Might be really caked on, like mine is. But if you're gentle enough, you can get it out without bending it. And then starting to move there. There we go, we got that off. That's going to get full of dust and dirt, so if you guys put down a couple of rags here, save yourself a lot of trouble because there's a lot of grease on this. We're also going to want a couple of rags to catch all the brake fluid that's going to come down. It's your choice how environmentally friendly you want to be, or if you're working on a driveway, you might not want to ruin it. The next thing I'm suggesting to do is to start the car, or start the van rather. Alright, so now that we got our brake leader off, brake line off, now we can start focusing on getting this bracket off. This one is a 21mm. You might need a brake bar on this one. Let's see. The easiest way to loosen this is going to be to put your shoulder here against the car. Let me see if I can back this up a little bit for you. Let's see. So I'm going to put my shoulder here. I'm going to pull. Yeah, we're pretty tight on there. Best thing to do is get the brake bar out. Alright, so we snapped that one. But that only mattered to me on this side for some reason. This bad boy is on there. Good. Alright, there we go. Got him. I know you guys like seeing me struggle, so you're welcome for the entertainment. You see all that brake fluid's coming out. And we can tilt it upwards. You can tie it off, but I actually prefer to let it drip out sometimes because I know that over the years people have probably been putting really old brake fluid in there and it's been leaking out, and you know, brake fluid isn't the kind of fluid you want to let sit around because it's going to collect water after a while. So I'd rather let it drain, which is why I haven't clamped it off or sent it up or anything like that, because I'd much rather put new fluid in it. Just gotta make sure that that rag is down there catching it. We should be okay. Right, now we're going to remove the old caliper. Usually need something to pry this off with. Crowbar and a long bar too. Caliper right off. Make sure it doesn't drip all over the floor, all over the ground. Bracket off, bracket should come right off now. Now, I just bought this vehicle and the pads, you might want to inspect your pads, but my pads are still good, but I just bought this vehicle and I have no idea how old these are. So I'm not even going to bother. I already bought new ones. I'm just going to replace them. Alright, second thing we got to do, after we get all that other stuff off there, we got to get the rotor off now. Now this rotor is one piece with the hub. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to get this castellated nut off, which has a cotter pin right here. So we're going to just have to bend that cotter pin off. Some needle nose pliers would be a lot easier for this, but I had one of those screwy moments where I put it down and I don't know where the hell I put it 15 minutes ago. So the vice grips are going to do for now. So if you have some needle nose pliers, I would definitely recommend those over these. I'm going to try and take these out carefully because not a lot of people have them, but I have a big box full of them, so if I do screw it up, so get another one, but a lot of people don't have a new one. So take care of this bad boy. Okay, the next thing we do is take the castellated nut off, which mine is completely covered in grease. So we have a dirty rag right here, ready to get all my grease off. Wipe this down. And these aren't really torqued very heavy on this particular model. I noticed that on the other side, when I got this off, it just kind of came right off too, which tells me that torque specs are probably not very high for this vehicle. I wouldn't really worry about not torquing it too hard. I think the torque specs are about 30 foot-pounds or so, which is really not that much. A couple of forums said 15, a couple said 17, a couple said 30, so you have to use your own judgment on this one. Do your research. This should slide right out. Now, I don't suggest saving these. These do look fine, but I mean they're only like I think $9 or $10 at AutoZone. I think the inner one was $6. The outer one here was $6. The inner one was like maybe $9. Not that much. I'd rather just get a new one. Next thing you want to do, you want to check for your seal. Most of these are going to have a seal on them. Seal's going to be down there. Adjust the camera. Okay. There's a seal right here, so what we're going to do is we're going to pop out that. Pop that seal out the bottom. And if you're saving the bearing, make sure you don't hit the bearing. I'm just getting the seal out of the bottom. Really just want the seal, I don't want anything else. You can also buy the seal at AutoZone too. It's really not that expensive either, but I forgot to pick one up and you really don't have to replace them. It's just good too. So this one is totally dirty. I'll make sure that we get all this crap off and we'll grab a clean rag before I put this back in later. We're going to actually rebuild the new one, and I'm going to take the camera over there. So we'll clean this up with a nice clean rag. This is just a fair warning. This project is most definitely a glove project. You're going to definitely want, and you're going to definitely go through a lot of gloves on this project, so just keep that in mind. Just want to clean out the seal, get all the dirt from it popping out on the ground and being so old. Be careful with this because we're going to reuse it. You know, I've read a lot about you can use diesel fuel to remove grease. There's a lot of different options out there. If you want to get this really clean, you can. I think that a nice clean rag really does a trick though. Okay, I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to throw this down. That's a clean rag there. We're going to get the new one out. Grab the bag. You want to keep it nice and clean. We have all the dirt, debris. We're going to use a lot of grease, so we're going to make sure that's nice and clean. Next thing you're going to want to do, take a grease gun, or if you're lazy like me, take a tub with your finger and get the middle right there. Just want to go level all the way across, not too much. Don't need that much inside, just enough to get it wet. So we're going to fill that hole in there. That's really all we were doing with this. And we don't have to put that much in there. Okay. So this is our outer bearing right here. This is our inner bearing. Now the grease that I have, in order to load this bearing, making sure that your bearing is nice and clean, we're going to have them go load this bearing. Most people are going to have better grease than this. Or not better, but I use full synthetic grease and it's a little thicker. Most grease is not this thick. Most normal grease. So you might not have this issue. But the old tap style loading of this bearing is not going to work because the grease is too thick. So what you're going to have to do is you're just going to have to keep pressing it. Just going to press it with your finger all the way around. Make sure that you get all that grease in there. And again, if you have thinner grease, it's going to be a lot easier, but I prefer the more expensive grease just because it's only a couple dollars more. Why not? And so we got that one side done, pretty much as far as we're going to get. And we can start doing this side. We really don't want to skimp on the grease on the bearings themselves. Really want to get these nice and greased up. Be very liberal with them. You're going to go on the outside. You're going to start greasing up all the ball bearings. This is definitely a situation where overkill is definitely okay. Alright, now that we have that done, pretty simple. We'll drop it right down in. We're going to have the tapered side, which is the side that goes downwards. That's the side that goes into the bearing. That's the side that goes into the hub, rather. And these are not pressable bearings. They go straight in. You really don't have to pound on them. When you hit the seal, you should use a mallet or a brass tamper. We don't have a brass tamper, so we're going to use a mallet. So the seal here has a piece of rubber here. The piece of rubber is the part that we're going to be sticking in here. And if you want to, you can grab a little bit of grease, just a fingerful, and go around the inner side of the seal. Going to put that down, rubber side down. We're going to go grab our mallet. We're going to pang that in. Okay, I'm back. I have my rubber mallet. And just hold this down on one side, give it a good tap on all sides until we go in. Right, nice and flush all the way around. That's what we want. Really simple, guys. There's really nothing to it. Now, before we go over there, put this back on. I want to pull out the outer bearing and grease this up too, so we can leave it over here on a clean rag. I don't want to waste another pair of gloves either, so now would be a good time to get your grease gun out so you don't have to stick your fingers in it like me. I'll really work that in. Be very liberal. Again, guys, you're going to need both the outer and inner bearing, and you're going to need that seal. So if you want to be smart, when you go to AutoZone or you go to an auto parts store, you go on Amazon, make sure you order all these parts before you get to the job. It'll make it a lot easier for you. Also do my best to link part numbers for you so you don't get confused. Just remember that all models are different, so you're going to want to check. Again, we're just being very, very, very liberal with this grease. Alright, I got a clean rag. Before I put the new bearing on there, I just want to make sure that we get a nice clean rag and wipe off the spindle. Get that nice and clean. We're gonna do our best now to make sure we get this in there without getting it dirty. Don't want any dust to fall in there. These are going to be a little wobbly before we put the outer bearing in, so we're going to go grab our outer bearing now, which is sitting over there on the table nice and clean. Alright, so we have our outer bearing now, still in the plastic. I kept it nice and clean. Put the tapered side straight in like we did before. Very easy. I'm going to grab the washer I was on there before. Same thing, we're going to grab a rag, a nice clean rag. I'm going to wipe this washer off, make sure it's nice and clean, just like a spindle. This washer goes right over here. Okay. Split that grease out, should stick right in there. I'll take our castle nut and do the same thing. I'm going to clean it up a little bit to get all that old grease off. Make sure it fits. Okay. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take our bolts. Alright, so now that we know our castle nut has enough space, we know we installed it right, so we can go ahead and put our nut on. Clean that up too, just like the other one. I'm going to go ahead and thread that. And when we took both of these off, they weren't even on, so I really don't think it's a big deal. Just grab yourself, I believe it's 1 1/16. Yep, so we have our 1 1/16 inch socket right there. And we're just going to do about 30 foot-pounds, which is just kind of snug, really. I mean, you don't want to use a breaker bar or anything too long. You can actually torque this if you want. Just go nice and snug. I wouldn't go any more than that. It really doesn't have to be too tight. You don't want it to be too tight either. Again, do your own research, because your van might be a little different than this van. And take our castle nut, put our castle nut right there. Get our cotter pin. We're going to force our cotter pin right back through there. Same way it came out. Now my cotter pin is a little bit odd. I'm taking it out. So what I usually do is I usually just stick a pair of vice grips and squeeze them. And that kind of straightens out the cotter pin, so it goes straight up. Alright, now, once we have that in, I like to take my ball peen, just give it a couple of taps. Tap it with the ball peen, should go right in. Take your needle nose pliers. Remember, don't be like me. Get yourself the right tools. Don't lose your needle nose pliers. This job will be a lot easier for you. But I know you guys like to watch me suffer, so just doing this for you guys. It's really why I'm doing it, you know. There you go. First one. And gentle there. Okay. Well, the castle nuts on there. We're going to start working on the brakes again. So now that we've been dripping over here, remember, I've been dripping onto a rag. You don't have to let this drip. You can clamp it off or you can stick it up. Let gravity do its job. Alright, so this is the most difficult part. And this is the part where everybody's going to pay attention to. Because this is crucial when you're replacing all of your brakes. You're definitely going to want to get your brake lines out because it's just imperative at this point. Like, you're replacing everything else on your vehicle, and you don't want to leave an old brake line on there because it corrode from the inside. And even though this might look fine, this one doesn't look fine. It actually looks rusted to shit. But usually on cars from the outside it looks fine. But little do you know, on the inside, the corroding Alright, so I'm using an 11mm. Now I could use a brake line wrench, but mine is too long to fit in this hole. So just a little tip for you. 11mm, well, should be fine. Mine were really loose, so I had no issues there biting them. But just be careful that you don't start tugging on them and then break the inner line, which is a big pain in the ass, especially in the front. I'll be very gentle with these metal brake lines. Again, I want to show you guys step by step exactly how I did this. I don't want to edit it out. I know a lot of people do that. This video is not going to be like that. This is for the person who really wants to study and do this the right way. I already did the other side, so now we're doing it exactly the way that I did the other side. It's going to take quite a while because I only have this wrench. If you had a very short, stubby 11mm wrench, that's a pro tip right there. Take a really stubby 11mm wrench and get in there and you get a lot more revolutions. Good news, I do have a 7/16 wrench, which does seem to fit over this pretty good. So, now that we have a little stubby wrench, we can actually go a little bit higher, get more revolutions out of this. There's really no faster way to do this. So if you want to skip through, which I'm sure you already did, you can. So this is going to be the longest and most tedious part of this entire process, and I just want to encourage everybody to keep going, even though it's going to be a big pain in the ass. It does come out eventually. This does not last forever, and it's a lot easier to get in than it is to get out. Trust me. It's a lot easier to get the new one in than it is to get the old one out. Another trick that you can do, which I'll show you right now that we have it loosened, this is going to save you a ton of time. We're just going to take a cat's paw, and it's positioned in here just like this. It's going to have to be kind of tricky here, but this works. I've done it before. We take cat's paw and then we hit it in a downward direction like this. It's pretty much the only way that I feel like anybody's going to get this clip out. There we go. You see that clip came right out. This is the way that I stuck it in. I put it right back here, right underneath the pin. That pin's going to come right out. Let me just pull a little bit. Now we have access to our bolts, which has been loosened for us already. We can take a wrench, carefully start loosening it now. A lot easier. Alright, now we got the brake line off. And take these clips, pull them out. The new one's going to come with new clips, so don't worry if you break them when you come off. I'm going to put Amazon links for all of these parts. Just make sure to look for that. This part number right here, let me see. This is the driver's side H380388, and the passenger side is just one number different, so make sure that you get the right parts out when you're doing this. So now, I want to take our new brake line. Now that the clip's off, it's going to be a lot easier to get in there and get the new one on. No sweat. Now would also be a good time to change your ABS sensors. Mine are fine, so I'm going to leave them. Make sure you're nice and gentle with these. We don't want to break this inner brake line. Would not be a good day. We're starting to thread, it's good. Tighten down. It just has to be snug. These brake lines are really brittle, so we got to remember we do not want to bend them and break them. It's not a good idea. And that's nice and snug right there. We don't want to go too much more. Right now, we just have to make sure that we're lined up. Make sure that we're not upside down. And the way that we do that, pretty easy. We just have to make sure that we go horizontal. So what we can do is we can grab our new rotor, or our new caliper, or our old caliper rather. So it's right here. Just make sure that we have it on right and it's not backwards or upside down. You can see that it looks to be kind of upside down, which is good, we checked. So let's see if we can get this one turned the other way around. Gotta be really careful with these guys. Do not want to bend them. Looks like we were right there. That's where exactly where we want, right there. Okay. So I'll keep that there. And we'll put our clips on. The best way that I find to put the clips on, grab a chisel or a screwdriver, pop it right between here, right between the clip, and turn it. Pop the clip on. It's a little sensitive today. This clip's a little sensitive. And then you just pop the clip on, give it a good squeeze, and pull the chisel out, and it pops right in. Alright, now we got that in, and that's going to be perfect, just like that. And that's exactly how we want it. We want this ridged part here to be upwards. So before we tighten it too much, we want to make sure that it fits first. Now we're going to tighten it off and get it snug again. Nice and snug. 11mm wrench. Now we just have to pop the clip back in, which is fairly simple. Just make sure that there's enough slack on this ABS sensor. Okay. Pop our clip back in. The clip goes this side here. So the tapered side that goes outwards goes towards the passenger side. I'm gonna slide that clip right back in. Alright, the best way to get this back in, grab a long bar or the cat's paw that you were using before. You're gonna just knock it in just like that. Now we're in. Now we have our new brake line. We don't have to worry about issues down the line with the brake line. Now that we got our new brake line in, it's time to pull out our calipers. I just want to take a moment to show you guys how to grease the brakes. It's really important that we keep the end of these nice and greased up. Don't get any on the pads, but we want to get the ends nice and greased up so that it slides back and forth properly. We need a little bit of play in there. We don't want it to be solid in there because we want the brakes to slide back and forth. That's what the kit comes with, brake pads. So most calipers aren't going to come like this. These are nice calipers, so they have dielectric grease already in there. I would suggest using only dielectric grease or some kind of caliper pin grease for this specific project. Don't go ahead and use like the type of grease that we'd use on the bearings. I think it's a lot more efficient this way. All right, so my caliper comes all put together. So the easiest way for me to do this and to describe this to you is to just go ahead and stick this on first. Let's put things upside down, Tony. Okay. So there's a special way that you put it in. Make sure that you're doing it right. You want to grab the biggest bolts that you have in the tray. Those are for the brake bracket, brake caliper bracket. This top one is going to be the hardest one to put in because you're going to have to hold the weight of the caliper while you're pulling it in. And we thread it. I always find these to be the hardest to thread out of all the bolts we took off today. Just keep that in mind. And this one is a 21 millimeter. Go ahead and screw these in. Before I do that, I want to screw the bottom one in first. And I'll show you why I'm not screwing the top one in yet. Get that bottom one done. You want to get it all the way because I'll show you in a second. Okay, so we're going to leave it a little bit loose on the bottom. Take the top off. Now that we have the bottom in, it should stay nice and tight. And what we're going to do now, and I'll show you why. Loosen the bottom again. Just a little bit so we can put enough play in there. Alright, we have enough play in there now to get them in. We're going to have to put these clips in. These clips are really important because they help with guiding and sliding, as I said before. They're really easy to put in. You got to grab the bracket. We have to take the caliper off first. Now that we have the bolts in, we can take the caliper off, which is the original reason why I wanted to. So now that we have that in, we can take the caliper off. Move these pins off. They should just come out by hand after a while. Alright, and just like that. There we go. Take that pin out. Okay, now we got the caliper off. We can go ahead Take the top bolt off again. Slide that down. Now we can get our pins in, or clips in, rather. These are really easy to get in. Take this end where the clip is here. You can see there's a little bendy end here. That bendy end goes in to the outside, like that. If yours didn't come with clips, I'd suggest reusing the old clips because they are pretty important at this stage. You don't want to screw anything up. Okay, now that we have those off, we can go ahead and slide our bracket back in. And the bottom one should go on first. And then they should just pop right in, like so. It does help to keep the top bolt off for this process. It's just easier to move around and wobble it first. Now that we have the brake pads in, now we can go ahead and screw everything back together. And bolt this all the way in now. Hopefully we can get this finished before it gets dark. Right, and with these I like to make them extra tight. You never know. Those are pretty big bolts, so they should be torqued pretty deep. Okay, now we get those torqued on. Time to install a caliper. Again, making sure that your caliper, before you put the guide pins in, has been greased up with dielectric grease. It's really, really, really important at this stage. And you might have to decompress the caliper at this point if you aren't replacing the caliper. It's a good idea to decompress it first with a C-clamp. Otherwise you're not going to be able to get it in. Alright, the easiest way to get these in is always to push. Let me see if I can adjust this here. There's always a little guide pin here, this little black rubber piece that gets in the way when you're trying to put this in. There's a special locking part on the bottom here. On the bottom, let me see if I can adjust that down. Okay, we got a caliper seated in there now. Now that I have two hands, I can adjust the camera. Okay, pretty straightforward at this point. You've done brakes before, you know where this is going. Start threading our bolts in. Thread. This one's 13mm. I'm going to alternate between the top and bottom, just to make sure that we're not over tightening one area too much. A couple clips on the bottom, a couple clips on top. This is where an air ratchet definitely comes in handy. But you know, I know you guys like to see me suffer, so I'm not going to grab one. I'm just going to do it the old-fashioned. Alright, now the best way that I like to do this and these are pretty important here. If you over tighten these, they will snap. I've had it happen to me before when I was a kid, and I've heard people talking about it. You got to be really careful when you're putting these in. They should just be a little snug, which is good right there. And what we're going to do is we're going to give it a nice quarter turn. Just a little quarter turn, okay? Not a half turn, quarter turn. All right? We don't want this thing to be too tight. We don't want it to be loose either, because they will come out. All right, that one's snug. We're going to give it a little quarter turn. And our caliper's in there. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put that brake line in that we did before. And if we did it right, it should pop right in. So it lines up. So what we're going to do, I have a bag here somewhere. Luckily mine comes with a new bolt. I would suggest using the new bolt rather than the old one. If you do only have the old one, just use the old one. It'll be fine. We're going to take the bite washers. One goes on the nut, and then the other one goes on the opposite side. And that's going to start crunching. Crunch washer, bite washer, whatever you want to call it. That's going to go in there, and it's going to start crunching down. And it's going to give us a nice seal. And this is, I believe, 14 millimeter. It is 14 millimeter. I'm going to make sure that this does not get put on loose. The easiest way to do it, wait till you get nice and snug like this, and you're going to hear that crunch. You're going to feel those washers start to crunch. It's going to start getting harder to turn. And then once it starts to get almost impossible to turn, like now it's getting nice and hard to turn, we're going to give it another solid clamp. If I go any more than that, it'll break. So we're going to keep it nice and snug like that. Make sure everything's all tucked away. Now we're going to get the tire back on so that we can make sure that everything is torqued. This next process is going to be a little bit complicated if you're all by yourself, but there is a way to do it by yourself, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So we have to bleed the brakes now. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab ourselves whatever ratchet size fits yours. Mine is a 3/8, and we're going to give it a turn, and we're going to go inside the van, and we're going to start pumping the brakes. There's a special way that I do it by myself. You guys can do this too. What you do is you grab a piece of wood, okay? You're going to pull the seat forward. Make sure it's all the way forward, as close as you can get, so that the piece of wood you can wedge in here, okay? So we're going to pump the brakes nice and tight. Make sure there's no leaks. I don't see any leaks down there. So we're going to pump. We're going to take the piece of wood. We're going to leverage that right in where the seat is. And I'm actually a little further back. Push the seat up. We're going to wedge that piece of wood right in where the brake is, and let it kind of sit where the seat is there. So now the seat is our person in the car holding the brake for us. Really simple, easy to do. I've been doing it for years, it works. All right, and we're just gonna keep repeating this process real quick. Get it done, no bullshit. All right, we're getting nice and tight now. It means there's lots of air in there. Clamp our piece of wood in there, come back out. One more time. We're gonna have to do this a couple times because there is a lot of air in that caliper. See our brake pedal's getting nice and firm. So it's working. Alright, we still got a lot of air in the lines. Gotta do this a couple more times. That's a nice firm brake pedal now. Should be almost ready to go. See, but there's still a lot of air in there. And again, make sure that you guys got something under there to catch all that brake fluid. One more time should do the trick. Still got a little air in there. Nice and firm pedal now. Push it nice and hard. Get all that air out. Okay. This should do it. Okay, we're gonna make sure that we have a lot of fluid left in the reservoir. When you're bleeding the brakes, you want to make sure that there's fluid in the reservoir. Top that off to max. There we go, we're at max. Alright, she should be good to go. Alright, there we go. Okay, last thing. At this part, you might want to check your torque specs, like I said, because some people might not have their tire go on just as easy as mine. I know that some people, when they install the tire, they're going to have a lot of play. I know because I installed the other one that this tire is going to be perfectly fine, just snugging that bolt there. But a lot of people might put it on and have a lot of play. That's when you have to start adjusting your nut. So make sure that you look up a couple videos on that. There's tons of videos on it, on how to torque your axle nut. I like to set the gun to low. I do not like to over tighten these. You're going across pattern. You should already know that. You're working on a car. You always go across. Nice and gentle with these, because we're going to let the weight of the car down now. So now what we got to do is we got to jack the car up. So now the vehicle is up. We'll go jack down. Now that we have the vehicle with the jack stands removed, we're going to start lowering the vehicle down just until it touches the ground. Right there. And we don't want to put too much weight on there without those lug nuts tightened to torque. So now we're going to take a socket, which again should be a deep socket, but I don't have one. We're going to start torquing these to 140 foot-pounds. Your vehicle might be different. Make sure to check. Going that same front pattern. This is like a really bad way to do this because I don't have a deep socket. But in the real world, not everybody has all the tools they need all the time. That's why we have people like me who do the dumb stuff first, so that you guys don't have to. Right, so we have everything set. Make sure that the tire has no play. We'll back it back up. And if all your ball joints are good, then the tire shouldn't have any play. Which mine doesn't. Solid. Okay. Now we have it up. Go ahead. I'm going to give the cap a good cleaning. There's a lot of grease on there. Okay, I'm going to grab our mallet. I'm going to pop that back in. There we go. That's how you replace your brake pads, brake lines, brake rotors, wheel hubs, hell, what else? Wheel bearings, and that's how to torque your tire. Anything else, please leave a comment. Please subscribe if you want to see any more car videos, and give me a thumbs up.
All right, so hopefully everyone enjoyed that. I hope nobody lost any fingers or blew themselves up doing it. I know that it was really fun for me. I hope it was fun for you guys too. Don't forget to hit the bell notification because I am going to be doing all of the work on this Ford Ecoline. So if you do have a 1997 and 2004, 2006 Ecoline, check it out. I'm going to be doing the rear brakes soon, so that's a really good video. I'm going to be doing all of the rear brake line videos. I'm going to be doing the front tie rod ends, and I'm also going to be doing the spark plugs. But there are really a lot of informative videos on how to do the spark plugs, so if you guys want to see me do that video specifically, let me know in the comments. And again, please hit that thumbs up button. It really helps out. Subscribe and hit the bell notification if you want to see more Ford Ecoline videos. I also have a Nissan Sentra, and any other videos that you guys want to see, just let me know and I'll try and do them my best.